50-plus a few times. It's on the way. And UMass is on the board.
Fireworks
going off. It's 45.
In addition to the fact that it's funny that you set off fireworks for a field goal. Historically, I associate fireworks with touchdowns.
Historically,
I don't think I've seen any other fireworks for field goal situations. But it also matches up so completely, and I'm not the first one to point this out, with the famous meme, which is Chris Paul hits a huge three to cut the lead to 42.
That game 7 in the NBA a couple years back.
Yeah, there's like a famous screenshot that goes around of a YouTube video that says Chris Paul hits a huge three to cut the lead to 42. And literally this was a huge three to cut the lead to 42. The score was 45-3. It was just perfect.
And it comes against a 2-7 NIU team.
Yeah.
In the midst of UMass going to 0-10 on the year.
I watched a little bit of this game because I knew we were going to have this episode. And there was a stretch where NIU ran the ball 19 times in a row for 3 touchdowns. And the reason they stopped running the ball is because they put their backup QB in and wanted to get him some reps. But in the second quarter, they were just going run, touchdown. Like that's where UMass football is right now. And it really turned my head and made me think, is this the worst team we've seen in this modern era of college football?
I'm Alex Kirshner. He's Roger Sherman. And we love a dumpster dive. We both do. And Roger, you wrote a really convincing story just at the end of the 2024 season about how one MAC team, Kent State, had a very good case as just that, as the worst team that we've seen in college football in modern times. We are at least scaring it with the current UMass team, which is probably on its way to 0-12. One sort of simple way of measuring this is that according to our friend Bill Connolly's SP Plus projection system, UMass is currently the 232nd ranked team in the NCAA, by which I refer to FBS and FCS, and we're going into Division 2 and 3. So we're really getting down there. They are 44 spots in SP Plus behind the next worst FBS team, which is Sam Houston. They are not even a top half FCS team, according to SP Plus this year. Last year, Kent State was 227, notably 5 spots ahead of where UMass currently is in the NCAA-wide SP Plus. And Roger, I'm just wondering if I'm getting high on my own supply here, or if this actually is a pretty fair contender in progress for worst team of modern times.
It's definitely a contender. The other stat we're going to draw out here is at 234. They are in between LIU, which is a pretty mediocre FCS team, and Minnesota Duluth, which is like a potentially playoff bound Division II team. Like on the front, like if they were doing the weekly college football playoff rankings for Division II and they did that big show, people would be talking about whether this UMass team was good enough to get in. So that's where they are right now. With regards to the worst ever conversation, I'm going to do the case for why Kent State last year was worse, and then where UMass chimes in. So last year, Kent State was both dead last in offense, in scoring offense and scoring defense. Double dead last, DDL. They were 134th and 134th. UMass isn't quite there. They're dead last in offense, but only 132nd in defense. That's the 4th worst. They're only losing by about 27 points per game, where Kent State was losing by 30. Also, Kent State last year lost to St. Francis, Pennsylvania, which is a team that's actively dropping down from FCS to Division III football.
Yeah, that did happen.
Yes. Whereas UMass this year, by losing to Bryant, they're a 3-7 FCS team, which will finish in the bottom half of their conference, but at least they're staying in Division I. So that's why I'm leaning Kent State. However,
There's a big however coming here.
The reason that Kent State was able to finish dead last in both those categories is because they scheduled at Tennessee, at Penn State, and they had a third power conference opponent that they played on the road. That's not the case with this UMass team. UMass did play Mizzou and Iowa, but they also had a game against Temple at home as part of their non-conference schedule, and they lost 42-10. So, like, the degree of difficulty, their strength of schedule is a lot worse than Kent State last year on account of those big games last year. The other thing, and this is a pretty big thing, is that UMass played this year's Kent State team, which is 1 year removed from going 0-12 and finishing dead last in every category, and lost 42-6 at home against Kent State, which is not, I don't know, what you would define as a close football game. 42-6.
That wouldn't be right now. And who knows when you'll be listening to this. You know, this episode will sit in our podcast feed forever until the heat death of the universe. But UMass is minus 271 in aggregate point differential. Pretty easily could imagine them getting to 330 or 350 with Ohio, who will destroy them, and Bowling Green probably will too, coming down the stretch. That would put them in the bottom 15 or so since the BCS and the playoff came into existence. But the worst team that we've ever seen by point differential was a Paul Wolf Washington State team, which went 2-11 in 08 and was minus 405 in scoring differential.
That 13th game didn't help them going to Hawaii.
Exactly. There's two big caveats here. They had a 13th game to make the margin wider. And also, even that team was only 74 points worse by differential than the next worst team in FBS. UMass, only playing 10 games, is already 59 points worse by point differential than the next worst team in FBS, that being the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So as a matter of deviations from what is normal and even what is exceptional kinds of bad, I think you're also seeing UMass building a really cogent case for being worst than the worst ever.
Relative to the competition, they are, I mean, they're 60 points worse than the next worst. That's unreal. And there's still 2 games to go, and they're going to lose both of them, probably by a lot. I think you're right.
So you can only get here if you've been doing this and doing this poorly for a very long time. And we often call these episodes, this will be part of our Why You're Always Bad series. But UMass, I think it's important to note, was not always bad. UMass started playing football many years ago. They were a late 19th century football school like others in New England. And the Massachusetts Agricultural College Aggies were pretty good. They started up in 1879, early adopters. They joined up with UConn and Rhode Island and others in something called the Athletic League of New England State Colleges. As time went on through the 20th century, they built a very respectable pedigree for themselves over many years. In 1972, they changed from a Native American name mascot to the Minutemen. A lot of this going around this time. Reminder how late Dan Snyder was to do it. This was very common in this half of the 20th century. Late 70s into the 90s, they're kind of an FCS power, a 1AA power.
They were winning national championships. They were playing for national championships
program and a regular contender for national championships. This team had, I think it's fair to say, not just several very high watermarks, but legitimate juice for a long time. Regional rivalries, all of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the late 90s, early 2000s, in the playoffs, most years going on deep runs. Like a competent FCS team for sure. Like a fun one.
The 1998 team does win that national championship. Record-breaking offense, a lot of points. They keep being pretty decent after that under Don Brown. They punch above their weight. They finish in the national championship game against App State. One of the years that App State is doing its three-peat and running its FCS dynasty. And then, Roger, they do something that has been really bad and that I'm looking forward to learning more about on this episode, which is they go to FBS. It hasn't been very fun.
I was thinking about this heading into this episode. Like, we talk about programs that are bad. Like, since coming up to FBS, they have not had a single winning season. They have not won more than 5 games. They've topped out at 4-8. I was thinking about this, like, I was trying to rack my brain. You and I consume a lot of football. I could not think of like a memorable UMass football moment. Only after
I could think of one. And it wasn't good.
I was able to rack my brain and find a couple of decent moments, like after like Googling, but off the top of my head, I was just like, I can't think of watching a game that these guys played. I can't think of like really anything positive that's happened since they came up in 2013 or 2012.
One of the worst things is that they've run it back with a couple of their former coaches from when they were good. Mark Whipple was the head coach.
They rebooted the concept of reboots. Like
they did.
They hired one of their coaches that they used to have, and that didn't work out. And they were like, we should hire another one of the other coaches we used to have in Don Brown.
Mark Whipple's last gasp at UMass, and there will be graphic language coming in this excerpt, was when he got suspended, and ultimately the school and the coach parted ways after the year for a game in 2018, a year in which UMass, like always, was bad, but actually a little better. I think they won 4 games that year, and Whipple was mad about a penalty or a non-penalty in a UMass game, and he said, "We had a chance there with 16 down and they rape us." And he picks up the flag, referring to a pass interference flag that was picked up by the officials. Can't say that. Got in trouble. That is a UMass moment that I remember. UMass doesn't really produce a lot of viral moments in this sport. The fireworks are one. Mark Whipple saying that is another. They had one amazing player, Andy Isabella, the wide receiver who got interfered with on that play, in Whipple's view, who in 2018 had like 1 billion catches and was a Biletnikoff Award finalist. But
he was, when I was trying to think like, who are the players that I could remember from UMass? I was like, since transitioning up, he's the only one.
He's the only one.
He's the only one. He led the nation in receiving in 2018, which is kind of unbelievable. There's a 303-yard game that he had where they beat Liberty in triple overtime. But other than that, like, that's pretty much the only positive fun thing. He also had over 200 yards receiving against Georgia, which I absolutely do not remember. I'm assuming it was a blowout that he just happened to get going late.
Victor Cruz came out of UMass in the late stage FCS, but nobody remembers. Let's be honest. You don't remember him at UMass. I don't remember him at UMass.
No. He was a key contributor on those, later era national championship. No, they didn't win the national championship, but he was on the teams in the 2000s under Don Brown that went deep in the FCS playoffs. He was undrafted. So it's not like NFL teams had a high opinion of him coming out of UMass. He had to fight to make the Giants roster, and then became famous and won Super Bowls with them.
Indeed. After Mark Whipple, UMass hired Walt Bell, dead end, Southern play caller type guy, fish out of water, did not go well. He got fired after a couple of years. Then Brown comes back, and you know how that went. And now this year, Roger, under a first-year coach, Joe Harris-Simiak, they are making this charge at being, at least in the discussion, for worst team in modern times. Man, oh man, it's pretty bad. Should we perhaps bring on a guest and try to learn a little bit more about how it got this bad?
Yes, because kind of as good as I am as breaking these things down, I feel like I'm kind of just pointing and being like, oh my God. I feel like there's nothing I can say that isn't rude.
No, you did text me a number of times and say, I feel bad about doing this episode because I can't come up with any questions that aren't mean.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about interviewing our friend Michael here from the UMass 24/7 site. Because like, I guess my questions are like, has anything good ever happened to this team Is your stadium actively falling apart? Why are you doing this?
It's time to put him in the hot seat. We are thrilled to welcome to the program Michael Traney, the publisher and site manager of Fight Massachusetts on 24/7 Sports. Michael, welcome to the program.
Alex, Roger, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, fellas.
Michael, you've seen a lot of bad UMass football. Where does this stack up among bad UMass football?
He's nodding.
Yeah,
he's nodding sadly, if you can't see
I
him.
wish it weren't the case, but yeah, I mean, since they've transitioned up, it's been almost exclusively bad football. But this season in particular, I mean, among the worst, if not the worst season they've had at the highest level. And it's, that's really saying something given their record since their 2012 transition up.
Michael, this kind of season does not seem like it's possible without many seasons leading up to it going in a certain direction and laying the groundwork to be this bad. You can't just be going on 0-12 and getting outscored by what's probably going to be well over 300 points out of nowhere. What was the original sin here? Was it the move to FBS? Was it something they did once they were already here?
I wouldn't necessarily, I should say this. As a fan of UMass football, as an alum of the school, I do support moving to FBS. That's obviously been a question. A lot of people do believe that's the original sin, the moving up in the first place. I think it's more just the way UMass has approached moving up. They moved up kind of slapdash, like they didn't really have a plan. They weren't a very good FCS team when they moved up. Now, they have a history of being a very good FCS team, but at the time they decided to move, they weren't. They were a middling team, and that's never a recipe for success. But ever since they moved up, almost every pitfall, every rake you could step on, UMass has stepped on it, and it's just been one kind of calamity after another that's led them to where they are now, where they may finally be back in a conference, which is a big plus for them, but they're just so far behind the eight ball that, and particularly the way they've played this season, it almost seems like they'll never be able to get in front. So it's a question of truly supporting the program. It's a question of how the athletic departments run. It's a question of a lot of different things that have led to this point.
You mentioned, like, at the end there, UMass wasn't quite there as an FCS program right before they moved up. But there was a time in the not so distant future that UMass is winning national championships, going deep in the playoff every year. What was UMass fandom like then, and how did things change over the years to get to the point where the transition up didn't go well?
Roger, I know you misspoke when you said a point in the not so distant future when UMass is winning championships.
The not so distant past,
but we're leaving it in. Roger is predicting a natty.
Yeah, okay.
Let's hope so. I mean, we'll take a famous Idaho Potato Bowl over. I mean, we'll take anything we can get, but. Yeah, I mean, in the not too distant past, including the time when I was an undergrad at UMass in the early 2000s, they were a very good FCS program. 2006, I was on campus. They made it to the national championship game. They lost to a dynasty Appalachian State program, but they were consistently competitive. They were a draw. They were something you were proud of if you went to the school, even though, it was FCS or 1AA football at the time. They had the 1998 national championship. They even made it to the first ever 1AA national title game in 1978. They lost to Florida A&M. They for a long time have been a very proud program that has had a lot of success at the level they were at. Unfortunately, when they decided to move up, they had a bad head coach in Kevin Morris, and they were just a 5-6, 6-5 kind of FCS team with no real aspirations of even being good or having a deep playoff run at that level. They got an affiliate request from the MAC at the time, and they jumped at it. They didn't play a transitional season. They went right into a full FBS schedule in 2012. Their first head coaching hire was former Notre Dame offensive coordinator Charlie Molnar. He came in and he kind of chased off a lot of the players that were still there. And I mean, from that hire on, it's just kind of been a mess. And I know you had mentioned earlier, and we'll discuss it in here. It's like they had to play games at Gillette Stadium when they first moved up, and every mistake they could have made, it seemingly have made it to this point, and that's why they find themselves now kind of just the butt of the joke as far as college football goes. Most recently this game they just played against Northern Illinois, where they were run off their own field, but decided to shoot off the fireworks when they went down 45-3, and that's the latest meme of UMass football.